Welcome to Difference Maker Sparks by John Michael. Most leadership training looks good on paper, sounds good in the room, and changes absolutely nothing.
Here's why.
And here's the question that could change everything. No human brains were harmed in the making of this leadership program. No beliefs were questioned. No blind spots revealed. No habits challenged. 2 days, 5 stars, one highly engaging facilitator, and leadership stayed exactly the same. But the food was excellent. The feedback forms were full of praise. The boxes were all ticked. So, mission accomplished, right? The box-ticking epidemic. Somewhere along the way, leadership development became an event, something you go to, a product you buy from a big brand with a glossy brochure and an impact guarantee. HR breathes a sigh of relief. The job is done. We've booked the thing, negotiated the rate, found a name people recognize. If it doesn't work, well, at least no one got fired. We've come to accept leadership development as performance art, a stage play with just enough sparkle to keep the audience from asking hard questions. Never mind that nothing's really changed. Never mind that next year we'll be back in the same room talking about the same problems. It's comfortable, predictable, painless. It's also a lie. The great leadership lie. Here it is, in case no one said it lately. Real leadership development is not easy. It is not fast. And it is not scalable. There is no workshop that will rewire your nervous system. No branded framework that will excavate your fear. No slide deck that will teach you courage. And no, Simon Sinek cannot save you. Leadership, real, lasting, soul-deep leadership, starts in the only place we're told not to look, inward. That's where the discomfort lives. That's where the stories we inherited sit unchallenged. That's the messy place where the transformation has to begin. But that's hard to sell. So instead, we distract people with thought leadership and shiny keynote speakers and forgettable offsites. And then we wonder why nothing changes. The truth about growth. Growth doesn't come from attending. It comes from confronting. It comes from the moment a leader pauses long enough to hear the voice they've been ignoring, their own, and decides to listen. It comes from slowly, stubbornly choosing to show up differently, to unlearn the old scripts, to replace reaction with response, to walk the path of self-mastery and steward the influence they've been given. This kind of leadership requires guides who've walked through the fire, not just read the slides. Processes grounded in brain science, soul work, and scripture.
Time.
Lots of it, because nothing worth becoming happens overnight. It requires courage, and it starts with the quiet confession. Maybe there's a better way I could be. For the difference makers. This isn't for everyone. That's okay. It's for those who can no longer pretend. For those who've sat in the 5-star room and felt the ache of this can't be it. For those who suspect that true leadership might be sacred work, not just another deliverable. If that's you, welcome. You're not alone.
And you're not naive.
You're a difference maker. And you're exactly where you need to be. No human brains were harmed in the writing of this article. However, several limiting beliefs were coaxed into the light, and at least one overconfident inner critic may have been seen mumbling "fair enough" before retreating into the limbic shadows. Because this isn't just about leadership workshops and HR's tick-box fantasies. It's about formation. It's about identity. It's about finally facing the lie you've been living under. And like Jacob, who wrestled through the night, not just with God but with the truth about himself, you may reach that moment too. What is your name? That was the question. And Jacob at last spoke the truth. I am Jacob,
Deceiver.
trickster,
Grasper.
not a title, not a brand, a confession. And only then did God speak the new name, be Prince of God. Because true transformation never begins with a clever strategy. It begins with honesty, with wrestling, with a name spoken in truth. And so we end here, with the ancient question echoing in your soul and synapse.
Who are you?
Not your job, not your title, not the mask you've worn since your first promotion. Just this. I am. Say it slowly. Mean it deeply. Let the old name fall away. Because maybe, just maybe, this is where the story gets good. If something in you stirred, you might enjoy meeting the bugs. They're flawed, familiar, and unlike your last leadership workshop, they might actually help you wrestle your way to the truth. Behind the words, the Bible, the brain, and the story beneath the surface. If you sense something deeper running beneath the sarcasm and storytelling, you were right. Here's what formed the foundation beneath this piece. Biblical grounding, I am, and the work of becoming. Identity is always the beginning. In Exodus 3 verse 14, God introduces himself not with a job title, but with his being. I am who I am. In the same way, true leadership doesn't start with a title. It starts with a name, a truth, a becoming. False labels must be exposed and replaced. Romans 12 verse 2 reminds us, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Transformation, Greek, metamorpho, requires confronting old patterns, just as you did when meeting your bugs. Naming is sacred. In Scripture, identity change is always preceded by a naming moment. Abram becomes Abraham. Jacob becomes Israel. Saul becomes Paul. No true change comes without first shedding the false self. Discipleship is slow, painful, intentional. Jesus didn't run leadership workshops. He told confusing stories, walked with people for years, and invited them to die daily. Luke 9 verse 23. That's the model. That's the pace. Neuroscience, rewiring the mind, one belief at a time. The brain loves shortcuts, but they lie. The limbic system reacts faster than your rational mind. That's why your leadership bugs show up under pressure. They're habits, not logic. Identity is a neural pattern. I am lights up the default mode network, your brain's sense of self. Every time you repeat a limiting belief, your brain wires it in more deeply. Change is uncomfortable on purpose. Real rewiring only happens when you're emotionally engaged, challenged, and feel safe. That's why story works. Metaphor bypasses resistance and lodges deep. Happy sheets versus lasting change? No contest. Feel-good events activate dopamine. Real change takes friction, repetition, and reflection. What you experience when you trace your bug, confront the lie, and rewrite the story. If something in you stirred, if a voice whispered, "That's me," then you might enjoy meeting the bugs. They're the default patterns that keep you stuck, and the stories that might just help you wrestle your way to the truth.